Today on Florida Sportsman Best Boat. If speed and fishing capability are both on the priority list, we'll be taking a look at the Blue Wave RS1, a bay boat with an overall length of 22 feet 8 inches, a beam of 8 feet 6 inches, and max horsepower rating of 300. Standout features on the Blue Wave RS1. A performance hull with a stepped and padded running surface reduces drag, creating a faster, more efficient ride, essential when making long runs to fishing hotspots. Recessed casting decks give anglers plenty of room to cast, while incorporating a tow rail to keep anglers inside of the boat. Multiple live wells allow fishermen to separate their baits, hold an abundance of bait, and often incorporate a large release well for tournament anglers. For blue water anglers with a desire to master inshore fishing as well, we'll be looking at the Young 27, a center console with an overall length of 27 feet 7 inches, a beam of 9 feet 4 inches, and max horsepower rating of 600. Standout features on the Young 27. A versatile hull design that utilizes a low bow for the addition of a trolling motor and the interior layout of a blue water fishing machine gives anglers the best of inshore and offshore fishing features. A second station gives anglers an excellent place to drive from and search for fish that would otherwise go unnoticed from deck level. Tackle storage in the cockpit of the boat allows fishermen to access their favorite lures quickly and easily when they are needed most. For the most salty of offshore anglers and their whole crew, we'll be taking a look at the SeaVee 340Z, a center console with an overall length of 34 feet 9 inches, a beam of 10 feet, and max horsepower rating of 1200. Standout features on the SeaVee 340Z. A coffin box in the bow of the boat is an excellent choice for anglers, serving as a large fish box, dry storage compartment, and place to sit and wait for a bite. A functional deck layout gives everyone on board plenty of room to spread out and fish, with easy access from one end of the boat to the other. Oversized live wells that pressurize water to keep baits from sloshing in rough conditions are a must-have if you plan on live bait fishing offshore. Join our hosts George Labonte and Rick Riles as they conduct walkthroughs and review key features, all to help you decide if this is the best boat for you.
Welcome to another episode of Florida Sportsman Best Boat. I'm George Labonte.
And I'm Rick Riles. Today we're going to look at the Blue Wave RS1, the Young 27, and the SeaVee 340Z. George, they beg the question, is the evolution of boats ever going to stop?
That's a good question, Rick. You know, times are changing and boat styles and boat designs are changing with them. Start with the Blue Wave. I was on that RS1 for 2 days. I got to fish on it. Inshore in super shallow water, we took it out the inlet, fished along the beach, out in the ocean. That boat really performs in a bunch of different arenas. It was a great little boat.
George, one of the reasons it made it so fast is that stepped hull. We don't see a lot of bay boats that have taken that technology, but man, Blue Wave did it well.
They sure did. Hey, let's talk about the Young 27. Now, there's a boat that's taken multi-function to a different level.
Oh, you know how much I liked it. Let me tell you, I had that second station. You know what I saw in the same day? A sailfish and a snook looking down from that second station. It does a lot of things well. It does offshore well. It does inshore well. Really a good use of space.
Absolutely. Now the offshore boat we're going to see today, the SeaVee 340Z, that boat was phenomenal offshore. I fished on that boat for a whole day too, and we took it out in some very rough water. Now I've always been a big fan of the SeaVee 34 ride. This 340Z is a stepped hull and it is unbelievable.
SeaVee does such a great job with their finish, George. I've never seen a SeaVee that I didn't like, you know, that slide out cooler. I didn't like, just the way they do things is uniquely SeaVee and so well done. Let's go step on that Blue Wave RS1. I want to show you that one bay boat is not another bay boat is not another bay boat. This is a good one.
When we come back, host George Labonte and Rick Riles take a closer look at a boat designed to move fast and fish hard, the Blue Wave RS1. This segment brought to you by Real World Sport Fishing, strongest outriggers on the planet.
Papa, can we take the canoe out?
Sure.
Are you sure about this? You haven't had this canoe out in years.
It'll be fine.
Have fun.
Okay.
Be careful.
Paddling is one of the greatest ways to explore Florida's waterways, but always make sure you're prepared for the journey. Regardless of your experience, know your limits, carry the proper safety equipment, and always wear your life jacket.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Best Boat. Join our hosts George Labonte and Rick Riles as they take a closer look at the Blue Wave RS1. Representing the 17 to 24 foot class in the bay boat category, the Blue Wave RS1 has an overall length of 22 feet 8 inches, a beam of 8 feet 6 inches, and a max horsepower rating of 300. Designed with performance in mind, she has a draft of 13 inches, a dry weight of 2,100 pounds, and a fuel capacity of 60 gallons. Now, let's hear more from our hosts, George Labonte and Rick Riles.
George, we're here on the Blue Wave RS1. You know, after 5 years of doing Best Boat, there's just some boats that I know are going to be just right before they're ever delivered. They did something with this boat that made it an RS, which stands for Reduced Surface. It's got a step and it runs on a pad, much like a bass boat.
It does, and I'll tell you what, this boat jumped on plane really quick and rode up on that pad really nice this morning. I mean, it really got up quick and ran soft.
Let's start looking at it, because there is so much to go over on this boat that all speaks to the term, for me, finely tuned.
Rick, first thing I noticed here, the old Rick Riles step up.
You know I love that step up, and if you get up and down 50 times a day off one of these platforms, you would too.
Oh, when I get to be your age,
That's
be
exactly
a problem.
right. I love the pattern on the deck.
The Blue Wave logo is worked into this pattern. This one right here, it all flows in one direction, and when you run the brush, the direction that the skid pattern's laid out there, it really is a lot easier to clean. You know, you've got 2 rod lockers alongside here, which also can be insulated. You can turn that into a fish box too, or just have it as a rod locker. There's a fish box in the deck that goes all the way up to the front here that's also insulated, obviously. So you can put all your fish in there, all your rods in here. If you're gonna carry a bunch of fish, you insulate these ones too.
Now this isn't just a cooler that's under the step here. Everybody's got a cooler there. It's one of the super coolers. You know the kind I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That people pay a fortune for, that keeps ice for days. That's exactly what they did under that step right there.
Awesome. You know what else I like about it too, Rick? There's plenty of room up here for a couple of guys to fish. Room enough to throw a big cast net. You know how slick the deck can get even if you got great non-skid? If your toe hits that tow rail right there, you're not going in the water.
Well, you're right. You do have the elevation here, but I want to be in the boat, and I am here because of this high tow rail.
Yeah.
But let's work back, because we've just touched the surface on this boat, and there's a lot more to go through.
Absolutely. Let's have a look back here.
I may be an old man, but my boats have still got to have the cool factor. You pull into a marina, picture this particularly at night, okay? And your live well's lit up, but your whole snook is visible to everybody standing on the dock. Is that
That's
not
just
cool?
showing off now, come on.
You know I'm all about it. I'll do it in a minute.
The cool factor is there, but that's a real bait well that's big enough to keep enough bait to go fishing for a day in. You know, again, Rick, this is wide open here. You've got 6 rod holders on the side of it. They've got everything you need built into this, including this wet sound stealth. That stereo setup is really kicking. I mean, it's got an amp built in, your speakers all built into the grill behind here, which happens to be standard on this boat. Also, we've got a great big hatch we can access from the back. Your batteries are down there. Basically, everything inside this console is right there.
How about these two? Not only are they great helm chairs, you can turn them and slide them over to the gunnel, so you can sit and fish off the side of the boat.
That's a very clever design. You know, in addition to the comfort here too, Rick, you've got a fold-down footrest for each of the seats. And this is sitting on top of a sliding cooler track with a 75-quart Yeti. Let's go back here and take a look at this. You've actually got your own little habitat back here, Rick. I want to show you this.
George, I totally get what you're talking about with your habitat comment. I've got 9 grandkids, okay? I can put one in each one of these seats, and they've got a drink holder and a handle to hold on to, and what every kid can't live without, a USB port inside of there so they can play their game.
Drink holder right on top, easy access to the cooler, doesn't get any better, hence the habitat. Better than that though, Rick, if a 30-gallon extra tank's not enough, this 40-gallon live well should handle all your bait needs for a long day of fishing.
With one of the craziest things I've ever seen, a 3-inch drain in it. You're not gonna have to worry about your live shrimp or your pilchard getting stuck in the drain hole like we've all had happen and stop up your live well. You know what that brings to mind? Finely tuned.
Back to it, man. You keep going back to that.
I do keep going back to it because you've only got 22 feet 8 inches to work with, okay? And you've got to really do some fine tuning to make a boat fit together like this one does.
When we return, hosts George Labonte and Rick Riles step aboard a boat built to troll along offshore weed lines and mangrove shorelines, the Young 27. This segment brought to you by My FWC. Life jackets save lives.
Boating with family and friends is a great way to enjoy Florida's waterways.
Hey, Mom, can I go sit up front?
Yeah, just be careful.
But even experienced boaters may not recognize all the risks of improper seating or standing locations.
Okay, guys, hold on. Here we go.
Bow riding is dangerous. Passengers should only sit in designated seating areas while underway. Be aware and stay safe.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Best Boat. Join our hosts George Labonte and Rick Riles as they discuss the importance of always being prepared before heading out on the water in this week's seminar series.
George, we all want the same thing, a great day on the water. It's impossible to have one until you have a safe day on the water.
You better believe it. And you know what, Rick? There's a few things that you can do to ensure that your day goes off without too many surprises. Starting out with, always check the weather before you go. You want to know what the weather's going to do before you venture out on the water, especially offshore. There's a lot of ways you can learn about the weather, and I highly recommend everybody does so.
Let me give you one I learned the hard way. File a float plan, all right? I was young and bulletproof when I spent a day and a half waiting to get rescued by a tanker because nobody knew where I was. Tell somebody you trust where you're going, when you expect to be back, and what to do if you don't make it on time.
Absolutely. And another thing, if you're taking a trip away from your familiar water, say you're going to trailer your boat across the state or up the coast somewhere, always before you go, make sure you know where the ramps are and if the ramp is operational, if it can accommodate your boat. Go to myfwc.com/boat ramps and you're going to find a list of all the operational ramps, where they're located in Florida, and details about each and every one of them.
So there's 3 easy steps to follow. Check your weather thoroughly, file a float plan, and go to myfwc and find out where the boat ramp is if you're on the road.
And always be safe.
Now, let's check out the Young 27. Representing the 27 to 30 foot class in the center console category, the Young 27 has an overall length of 27 feet 7 inches, a beam of 9 feet 4 inches, and max horsepower rating of 600. Built for a smooth ride offshore while maintaining access to inshore waters, she has a draft of 17 inches, a dead rise of 20 degrees, a dry weight of 3,700 pounds, and a fuel capacity of 150 gallons. Now, let's hear more from our hosts, George Labonte and Rick Riles.
George, you and I get to do a lot of boats on Best Boat. I've been waiting a while to do this one. The Young 27, it's a different concept.
This is an actual real blue water fishing boat that's backing into an inshore roll.
Exactly. You have no trouble on this boat going blue marlin fishing in the morning, and you have no trouble stopping in the afternoon to throw a pilchard under the mangroves for snook. Really a new concept, takes hybrid to a different level.
A very recognizable feature is the shear line on this boat dips forward a little bit in the bow.
The shear line was designed the way it is for a reason, George, for that trolling motor to operate at its maximum efficiency. Let me tell you something, that is a feature that once you've used it offshore, you will never want to fish without it again.
That's a good point, Rick. You know, a lot of people don't even consider a trolling motor as an offshore tool.
You whip your little remote out, George, you push a button, and you move 3 feet. It adds a huge new dimension to your bottom fishing.
Another thing, I've been on a couple of these Young 27s, and they've both been completely different the way they're set up on the inside.
I've seen the one, and we've both been on it, that's open all the way forward. There's advantages to that. There's also advantages to doing it this way. Better storage, great fish boxes, and forward seating
yeah,
for when you're not fishing.
If you do a lot of stuff with the family, I mean, mom and the kids want a place to sit down, and it's not going to be on the gunnels, this is perfect for that. Rick, before we walk back here, we can't walk by this. I mean, on a 27-foot boat, this console is very roomy. This isn't a foxhole. I mean, there's a ton of space in there. You've got room enough for a head, which there is one on this boat. You know what? This is a really beefy console. I mean, everything about this boat is beefy feeling. And, you know, well, for one thing, look at this tower right here. I mean, you couldn't get a beefier looking tower.
George, that's nobody's crow's nest. That's not an observation platform up there. That is a separate helm station. Everything you've got down here, you've also got up there. All your electronics, all your everything. What a great place to drive a boat from. And it gives you a huge advantage in any kind of fishing that you do that involves seeing something. Let me tell you something else I appreciate about this console. It's short, so I can see over it even when you're throttling up, but it slopes forward. What an advantage if you're getting spray or getting rained on.
You know what, Rick, it's those little details that really stand out. I mean, also notice you got the slightly recessed electronics panel here. I mean, just setting it back a little bit, keeping it out of the weather, keeping you from leaning into it by accident. Just clever little touches. I mean, they're all over the boat here.
Well, and the door I showed you right inside the console there just slides in here, locks it up. You can leave it in the parking lot at night without worrying about your electronics. Well thought out. George, we've talked all about how beefy the boat is. The helm station itself, plush fits it a lot better than beefy does.
At this helm right here, you've got 12 places to put Plano trays and leader caddies, a knife holder, all that stuff on both sides of the boat. You got 4 big drawers right here on the back of this helm station too.
Think about your teasers, your squid chains, all that. You gotta have a place for them too. This is ideal for that. They've got a removable cutting board right there that not only does it not scar, but you can flip it over if you want to, so it always looks good.
Very clever. This boat's set up with carbon fiber outrigger poles. This is really a blue water fishing machine back here. Now, you know, we've got the seat cushions in and that seat back, which is removable. You take that stuff out and we're in the cockpit of a sport fish boat.
Sure, with 3 giant live wells. You can keep enough live bait in here to chum all day long if you want to. 2 long 5-foot fish boxes here. Okay, and they're not real deep, they're not too big. Do you understand what I'm saying about ice management?
Yeah, you put a 60-pound wahoo in this box, but you don't need 150 pounds of ice to keep that space cool.
Exactly, it's just one of the 1,000 little things we've been talking about. Let me tell you, if you are an offshore fisherman who really kind of looks at those guys that are catching snook and trout and redfish on the way home and think, I'd love to be able to do that, you need to take a serious look at the Young 27.
When we come back, hosts George Labonte and Rick Riles check out a boat engineered to accommodate the most hardcore blue water anglers, the SeaVee 340Z. This segment brought to you by Suzuki Marine, the ultimate 4-stroke outboard. Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Best Boat. Join our hosts George Labonte and Rick Riles as they check out the SeaVee 340Z. Representing the 31 to 53 foot class in the center console category, the SeaVee 340Z has an overall length of 34 feet 9 inches, a beam of 10 feet, and a max horsepower rating of 1,200. She has a draft of 20 inches, a dead rise of 23.5 degrees, a weight of 7,950 pounds, and a fuel capacity of 364 gallons. Now, let's hear more from our hosts, George Labonte and Rick Riles.
George, I've been looking forward to doing this boat ever since the lineup came out. I've ridden on SeaVees ever since Don McGee started building them in 1975. I still haven't found one I don't like.
You know what, Rick? I'm a big SeaVee fan myself. This 34-foot SeaVee, they've been building this boat for 16 years. There's a good reason why it's still here for 16 years. It's a great design. But they tweaked the bottom of this boat. This is a 340Z. They call it a Z because it's a double-step bottom. They wanted to improve efficiency and give you a little more speed, and they've done that with this design.
The ride's unmistakable. You and I know that.
Oh, yeah.
It's soft, it's dry, it just rides great. There's plenty of room for your passengers. And look at this deck layout. There is nothing to get in the way.
I've always enjoyed fishing on the 34 SeaVee. There's so many cool features. Let's take a look around at some of them.
George, I may be the biggest fan around of these coffin boxes up here. I don't want to get down on my knees every time I need to get something.
Yeah, tell me why you like this. I mean, there's a bunch of benefits to having a coffin box. What do you like about it?
Well, one of them is it's perfect seating. You know, if you're fighting a big fish, you can sit up there. Secondly, anything you need to get to in a hurry, you can just open the box and get to. This one's on a ram, so it comes up and you got a ton more storage beneath it. They've got usable storage all the way around, and you're gonna fish all the way around this boat.
Absolutely, and a 360 design, I mean, is very popular for a reason. When I think about boats like this, I think about guys fishing sailfish tournaments. You can work fish around the boat, not have to take your spread out of the water. You get a double or a triple header sail bite. You work the fish around the boat and just keep fishing. Kingfish tournaments, for that matter. When you think about those two things, what do you think about? Bait. This boat has got an 85-gallon live well on the deck right underneath your feet there. That's more than you're ever going to need. the forward entry into the console. It's a really cool thing to have, but this boat takes it to the next level. How about this? Sliding track.
Sweet.
How many days have I
Very
been on
sweet.
a boat and somebody's got to get in there and get their backpack out of the console, and they flip that door up when you're driving, and all of a sudden you're blind. That handles it right there. You know, another option that makes a lot of sense on this boat, Rick, is the second station. Having that second station giving you that height advantage, it makes it much easier for you to see that and see a bite before it happens.
George, another way you know it's a SeaVee, the simple, low-profile console that you can see directly over.
The flush-mounted electronics, this one's got the shadow box set back with the cover on it.
Think how hard it is to see your chart once it's got salt all over it. So they recessed it back, which gives you room for your phone and everything else. The simple design of this console is one of the reasons you keep coming back to SeaVee.
We're all familiar with this design, this helm station right here, all fiberglass helm station, tackle center right here, and then a cooler on a sliding track. You've seen it a bunch, you see it on a bunch of different boats, but it started on the SeaVee. Rick, let's talk about functional use of space in the cockpit on a boat right here. You've got a great big fish box right here. You've got access to all your pumps and systems behind it. Two boxes there. Actually, that box right there you're standing on, it's got a lift out liner. You can fit a couple of buckets, cleaning supplies, cast nets, all that stuff. And that 55-gallon live well in the transom right there, we can't forget about that. Now that 85-gallon live well in the front, 55 here, both pressurized. You can fill that thing full of water to the top where you're forcing the water out to drain on it, but it is completely full. When you're going 50 miles an hour in a boat like this in 2 to 4 foot seas, those baits are going to get shook up. When you pressurize that water to the top, no more.
There's nothing better than pulling a bait out of a live well at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that is just as frisky as he was when you put him in there at 6 in the morning.
Absolutely. You know what else? You know, this setup right here, we've been cruising around in the Intracoastal today. Got a great big bench seat with a backrest, very comfortable for riding around, but this pulls right out of here, get it out of the way. When it's time to go fishing and do some serious work, all this stuff is gone.
I'd have to make it go away, George, because to me, this boat just screams serious fishing. This SeaVee 340Z is only a step forward. I see only good things in the future of this hull.
Hey, if you'd like to learn more about the boats you saw in this episode or any boats you see on Florida Sportsman Best Boat, go to floridasportsman.com.
And we'll see you next week on another edition of Florida Sportsman Best Boat.
When filming for Florida Sportsman Best Boat, the cast and crew docked and dined at Pirates Cove Marina in Stuart, Florida. Family owned and operated, featuring 50 renovated rooms with an outstanding restaurant and a full-service 50-slip marina.